Yes, you will by the end of the next 3 hours.
Yes, you will. Look at this map behind us. All these circles indicate areas that we are watching in the tropics. We've got twin typhoons still tracking that in the West Pac, 2 in the Central Pacific, Kate, 2 areas in the Eastern Pacific, and then the Atlantic.
The Atlantic alive and well. This monsoonal trough just getting going. We've got these waves exiting out over Africa. But the question is, okay, what's happening? What is closest? What is up next? Look at the rain currently. These higher cloud tops associated with this very much weaker, once major hurricane Danny. It's now a tropical depression, bringing some much needed rain to the U.S. Virgin Islands and the Leeward Islands.
It's still a tiny little thing, but in terms of what now it is going to do is it moves through the leewards and then perhaps parts of Puerto Rico, maybe over into the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Rain, and this is a good thing, really. They couldn't have asked for anything better here, except for maybe more rain in terms of width.
Right, a little bit better of a soaker. We've got a tremendous drought ongoing there, so seeing this on the radar, it's welcome. Guadalupe, you're getting some rain right now. We are starting to see some of those sprinkles edge in on Puerto Rico. That's a place where we have extreme water restrictions in place. You can only turn on your tap 2 times a week.
Wow. I mean, that's tremendous, right? So the rainfall is needed. U.S. Virgin Islands also very dry. The British Virgin Islands also very dry. All of the islands have been experiencing a drought out here. So the rain is a good thing. The wind has not been tremendous. This is trade winds are even lighter, so the wind is not going to be a factor. Rip currents may be a factor, though. So on the beaches, if you're traveling here, that's going to be something to keep in mind.
But awesome. Best case scenario here. We've got the rain. We've got hardly any wind, and we're not expecting any re-strengthening. We might get a little bit of extra rainfall. If we get that a little farther north on this computer model, we might get extra downpours in Puerto Rico, which would be great.
I'll take extra if I'm in a drought for sure. As long as it's not too much to cause flooding, and at this point it doesn't look like it should be significant in terms of the rainfall. Now, as it turns out, though, it's the eastern end of the island that needs the rain more than the western side of things, and this is where we are expecting a little more rainfall.
To tell you how small this storm is, this has been evolving. You know, Jess is over there. I saw you because you saw the look because we had just the last model run in our last forecast. Didn't have any 3 to 5 on there. Now it's looking maybe some 3 to 5 over on the west side of the island. Yesterday our forecast was for the east side where we needed it. So it's a small kind of, you know, pinhole type thing. You got to thread the needle to get that forecast.
Exactly. All right, so behind it is this 98L, and it's interesting because it is coming in a very similar fashion that Danny did when it was just an invest. 90% chance in the short term and the longer term that it's going to develop. But then what happens after that?
That's the question, right? I think that's the question on everybody's mind. This is the area that's favorable for development. The reason being, look at this wind shear. It's kind of, again, threading the needle once again.
Little pocket.
There is, I think, a moment that we'll see heading into the middle part of the week where some wind shear will be a challenge for this, and that's really where the models diverge in their forecast, taking it a little farther to the north, taking it to the south.
And really the dry air is going to be a factor too, and there is plenty of dry air out there. So again, it's got a chance to become Erica, and it's in fact likely to become Erica, but then, you know, how strong does it get and how much impact does it bring to the islands? That's where the unknowns come in, and which we'll talk about later today.
Yeah, and then we've got Kilo. We've been talking about Kilo a ton because this thing, the intensity forecast yesterday, taking to a Cat 5. It has moved farther west though, and this is really a great scenario for Hawaii. Yeah,
keeping it away. I mean, the scenario. Last week's models had it, you know, bring it as a very strong hurricane to the island of Kauai. That is not the case now, as you can see. It's sort of meandering a bit for a while, actually moving quite slow and then staying
the great news is they have a little bit of drought there, so the rain is welcome, but it's coming down in droves right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's another story. Just a very moist atmosphere out here, and so we're getting some big rains right now on the islands. We'll talk more about that. Also, we want to share with you some amazing video coming in overseas of Typhoon Goni slamming southern Japan, beginning with this incredible
island. You're saying it's been cloudy for a couple days now. What's going on here? Well, we've got this. I want to show you what's going on. See these little showers on the radar? That's thanks to our last stalled out front that has just been hanging that moisture right there, keeping it solid. But our next rain is on the way. It's all associated with this low that's hanging out up here, and we've got a cold front that is heading off toward the east. That's going to be really our driving factor for this. There it is. This is what happens. That moisture that has been just stuck right there along the Cape, and really hasn't moved from there down south through the Delmarva and then on down East Maine. it's going to be wicked away thanks to this pretty significant cold front. This is the one that has slammed across the Midwest, really dropped temperatures there, dropped dew points. Today we see some scattered showers and thunderstorms upstate New York, central PA. You get into tomorrow and it's New England that sees the showers and thunderstorms. By Wednesday, it's going to be focused mainly in Maine, the rain in Maine, and then a couple of thunderstorms out there, and you see much more pleasant temperatures on the way, at least lower dew points. It'll be more comfortable outside, Jen. A little taste of fall. I think some folks will be looking for their pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh yeah, well they're out.
I'm not a PSL person, but I know a lot of people are.
Yeah, I'm not either, but they're out, right? They're ready?
Yep.
All right.
I think that they released early, I heard.
I think so too. All right, so coming up, we've got, of course, the weather for the tropics, 3 areas to watch in the Atlantic right now. We've got the latest on Danny and in-depth at Dan, thank you. And of course, there's the tropics, which have really gotten busy in a hurry.
I just had someone tweet at me that this was a conga line. I could not agree more. The ITCZ, just a conga line of places to watch right now. Typhoons, hurricanes, tropical storms. Actually, I guess no hurricanes right now, technically. But they're all the same thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Typhoon, it just, you know, a lot of folks ask this question about what makes a typhoon and hurricane different, and it's really just the basin that they're in. So if you're in the Western Pacific basin, it's a typhoon and not a hurricane.
Okay, so we've got all kinds of stuff going on. Let's talk about immediate things.
Yeah, and it's not surprising, actually, that we have all of this going on. This is the time of year when the tropics peaks. And so let's talk about why that is. You know, we talk about that September 11th as sort of the peak hurricane day or peak tropics day. But really, there's sort of too many peaks in there.
Kind of, yeah. And this increase is remarkable. Once you get to, you know, the start of August, you're saying, hey, you know, we're already into August. We haven't seen very much, but you have 90% of the season statistically to go.
Exactly, and more, and really 60% of the season happens within this peak, this late August, early September. What's happening is the dynamics, right? The strength and the number of seedlings into these tropical systems, the disturbances, as we say, coming off the coast of Africa, they start lining up, and that's one of the reasons why in the Atlantic we get to peak late August, early September.
But then you also have the thermodynamics. Thermodynamics, take those classes in college?
Yes, both.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we did. Okay, so it's the ability to create thunderstorms. So it's saying, okay, not only are we getting these things going, but our atmosphere can take these little seedlings, grow them, develop these thunderstorms that eventually create that warm core in our tropical cyclones.
And leads to where we are today, right? We're in late August and things are active, and not surprisingly so. Now let's take a look at Danny. There was actually a lot of surprising things about Danny. How small it was, how quickly it continued to ramp up last week, and then maybe not so surprising was how quickly it came down.
Yeah, that wind shear was just kind of like running into a brick wall at full speed. So that Category 3 hurricane, now a tropical depression. The winds, not going to be an issue, which is terrific. I know that says tropical storm warning. That is not.
That has been dropped.
Not a thing anymore, so that's wonderful news.
But we look at the path, and so the winds are going to be like trade winds, nothing crazy wind-wise. But we still need to track it because there will be rain, and helpful rain, hopefully, right? It's helpful rain, hopefully. So we're going to track the general path. When it's weaker, it's harder to get, you know, an exact path on it, as opposed to when it's stronger. Normally we'll have more of a specific
but it's already raining in Guadeloupe, which is absolutely incredible. The U.S. Virgin Islands starting to get a couple little sprinkles out there, and we're going to continue to watch that march into Puerto Rico. That's one place that desperately needs the rainfall. I mean, everywhere does. You're trucking in water. You're using the tap only 2 times a week if you're able to use the tap at all.
Right. They do a great job of desalinating ocean water on the islands. However, that's an expensive process, so it's much better if we can just get rainwater and fill up the cisterns. Winds are not terribly strong. St. Martin right now, winds not even 20 miles per hour. So this is a typical windy day here with the trade winds.
Yeah, rip currents because of those east winds going to be an issue there, and maybe a little extra wind chop. Look at this. We're not expecting really any redevelopment over Hispaniola. You could see some downpours, especially on the mountainous terrain over the Dominican Republic.
And then behind it, we've got another disturbance.
Oh, yes, we do.
98L. This one has a 90% chance of developing into Erica, which is the next name on the list. So right now, winds at 35 miles per hour. There certainly is evidence of, you know, some circulation, thunderstorm cluster right overhead, you know, all the things we look for. So 90% chance.
We need those thunderstorms to kind of centralize, keep on releasing that latent heat into the atmosphere. That's how we get that warm core. We don't have a whole lot of wind shear over the next couple of days, but then we have some issues with it as we get closer to the islands, which could be a good thing.
And there is dry air out here as well, so we'll have to see how this plays out. So in general, though, when we talk tropics, we've been talking El Nino this season, and because of El Nino,